Okay, we've looked at adding and subtracting polynomials. Time now to turn our attention to multiplying polynomials. And of course, we'll probably do a bit of dividing later as well. When you're multiplying monomials or polynomials, one thing you have to make sure is that you recognize that there's a difference between multiplying them and adding them, subtracting. Always identify what are you doing with these polynomials. Are you adding them or multiplying? Because if you're adding and subtracting, you do one thing. When you multiply or divide, you do another thing. So we're going to separate this up into looking at multiplying monomials. Then we'll look at multiplying a monomial by a binomial. And then we'll look at multiplying a binomial times another binomial. Okay, so we'll look at sort of three different types of multiplying. Okay, one thing as you're doing this, and this applies to multiplying monomials, but it also applies to these other things, is when you're multiplying them, you have to keep track. I always think of three different things. You might think this is Saturday Night Live at the bottom, but it actually, this one stands for a sign, this one stands for a number, and this stands for a letter or a variable. So when you're multiplying, you have to think sign, number, and then letter. Let's try a couple. Here's four multiplications that we need to look at. So if I'm multiplying these together, and notice when I'm multiplying, it doesn't matter if they're like terms or not. Like terms is an add or subtract thing, not a multiply divide thing. So here if I'm multiplying a monomial by another monomial. First I look at the sign. I have a plus times a minus, so my answer is going to be negative. Then I look at the numbers. 3 times 5, that's 15. Then I look at the letters. X times, there's nothing over here, so I'm left with an X. Not bad, eh? Let's try the next one. Let's look at the sign. Negative times a positive is going to be a negative. Oh, there's no numbers. 1 times 1 is 1. I could write the 1 in there, but I don't have to. And now when I'm multiplying the variables, remember that you have to bring in those rules of exponents. So here I'm going x times an x, so I'm multiplying common bases. So the rule when you're multiplying common bases is not to multiply the exponents, but to add them. So 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay, next one. Sign, it's going to be a negative. Number, still 1. X times x, there's no exponents. We assume they're both to be 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So it'd be negative x squared. Next one, sign, positive and positive is going to be positive. 3 times 4 is 12. Multiply common bases, have to add their exponents. Okay, hopefully you're getting on to that. Try those ones. And pause, and then come back and I'll give you the answers. Okay, hopefully you pause. Here we go. It's going to be a negative, an 8, and a y to the 11th. It's going to be a positive, 7, and y to the 5th. It's going to be, times 0. Anything times 0 is 0. Done. Okay, hopefully you got those ones right. If not, check where you might have gone wrong, and try some more questions from your book. So that's a monomial times a monomial. Let's look at the next one. A monomial times a polynomial. So here's a monomial here, and I have to multiply it by a polynomial. And this is sort of like in class, we talked a little bit about this. This is the distributive property, when you need to multiply the thing out front by each term inside of the bracket. So it's like the distributive property. Okay, so we look at those separately, and I have to think SNL for this one times this one, and then SNL again for this one times the last one. So let's just look at the first two. I'll put them in a different color. So these two. So sign is going to be positive. 4 times 2 is 8. X times x, add exponents, they're both 1, so this will be x squared. So that's the first product taken care of. Now let's do the second product. That's where I have to take this first number again and multiply it by the second one. So again, I look at the sign, positive times positive, it's going to be positive. Notice I wrote that as a plus. Works. 4 times 4 is 16, and x, there's no x over there, so x to the first will just stay. So that would be my product. Let's try some more. Let's try some more. You'll want to practice this a bit. Okay, just get that one over there. You may want to pause and then come back and see what the answers are. Okay, so I need to do this one times this one. Sign, negative. Number, 3 times 5 is 15. Letters, t squared times t, multiply common bases, add their exponents. That's going to be 3. Okay, so I've done the red one. Now let's do the blue one. So I have to multiply this by that one. Again, sign is going to be positive. 3 times 2 is 6. There's a t squared here, no t here, so I'll be left with a t squared on that one. How are you doing? Hopefully you're okay. Let's check out the last one. Let's do negative 2d times this one. Sign, negative times negative is positive. 2 times 5 is 10. D, and then this is 1. So multiply common bases, add the exponents. Okay, let's do now this one times this one. So negative times positive, negative. 2 times 2, 4. D times d, they each have an exponent of 1, so you add them, so it'd be d squared. Hopefully you're getting on to that. I might pause the video and go try a bunch from your homework assignment. Let's go on to the next one though. So I've done monomial times itself, monomial times a polynomial. Now we'll do the last one. So a binomial or another polynomial times another polynomial. In the book they go through this kind of thing, and basically what you have to do is make sure you multiply each term in the first bracket by each of the terms in the second one. They go through this sort of convoluted thing. They're saying y times this thing in the second bracket, and then 2 times the whole thing in the second bracket. Or in other words, you have to go the y times the y, and then you have to go the y times the 7, and then down here I have to go 2 times y, and then 2 times 7, which comes out to, right here, y squared plus 7y plus 2y plus 2 times 7, 14. So then y squared, I have 7y and 2y is 9y plus 14. It's sort of a little convoluted there. Let's see if this works for you. If I have a binomial times a binomial, I just have to make sure, maybe do this in colors for you. We'll go black. I take each term in the first one and make sure I multiply it by each term in the second one. If you've heard of FOIL, that's what this is. So the first terms I have to do, and then I have to do the outside terms. Once I've done the outside ones, then I'll do the inside terms. Guess I can put some letters on it. And lastly, I do the last terms. This will be L. So this guy out here was the outside ones, and this guy was the first ones. Okay, and again, I have to remember Saturday Night Live, or sign, number, language. Sign, number, letter. Okay, let's do the first one. So x times x, common bases, they're both positive, so it's going to be positive. 1 times 1 is 1. X times x, x squared. Okay, I'm feeling good there. Now let's do the next one. So it's this term times the last one. Positive times positive is positive. Number, 1 times 5 is 5. And then I just have an x there, so it'll be 5x. Okay, let's do the red ones. So it'll be positive times positive is another positive. 8 times 1 would be 8. And there's x times, there's no x's here, so it would just be an x. Okay, hopefully this is working for you. And lastly, the last ones. So 8 times 5. So positive times positive, positive. 8 times 5 is 40, and there's no x's. Then I take a look at what I have left and see if there's any like terms. Often the middle ones are, but not always. So I could rewrite my expression as x squared. 5 plus 8 would be about 13 plus 40. So this would be my product of those things. If you want, try that next one. Pause and try it, and then come back to see if you're right. X times x, x squared. x times a negative 4 is going to be a negative, a 4, and an x. 5 times x would be plus 5x. And then 5 times a negative 4, negative 20. Notice I didn't do the color thing in here. Once you've done it a few times, you sort of get onto the pattern. So first ones, then the outside ones, then the inside ones, and then finally the last ones. Once I have this, then I'll want to simplify. Down 4 again 5, so I'm going to be up 1x. And that's all the like terms that there are. Okay, hopefully that's helping you out with multiplying polynomials. In the book they do get a little silly and they give you a trinomial multiplied by a trinomial. I'll just get you started and then go from there. But it's the same principle. I've got an x here and I've got to multiply by each term in the bracket over there. So x times x, x squared. X times a negative 3y would be a negative, a 3, and an x and y. X times 4 would be plus 4x. So that's just the first letter. Now I've got to go on to the next letter. So I've got to take this y and multiply it by each term over there. So y times x would be a positive. I'm just going to reorder them, x, y. Y times negative 3y would be a negative, a 3, and a y squared. And then y times 4 would be plus 4y. Not done yet. I have to now take this one and multiply it by each. So 3 times x would be a plus 3x. 3 times negative 3y, negative 9y. And 3 times 4 would be a plus 12. And now I'll take and I'll gather like terms. X squared, there's nothing else that matches that, so I'll call it x squared. Now there's a y squared here. I might as well put that first 2. Just because it's an x squared, might as well put y squared beside it. There wasn't anything else that matches. Those two are gone. xy, there's one there, there's one there. Like that's all. So I'm down 3, I gain 1, so I'd still be down 2 xy's. Those guys are gone. X, here's an x, and there's an x. Plus 4, plus 3, that'd be plus 7x. X is gone. Here's a y, there's a y. Up 4, I lose 9, so I'd be in the whole 5 y's. Y's are gone. Now just left is my constant term. Okay, so that's how you could multiply a trinomial by a trinomial. Typically, though, we do lots of this kind of stuff. Binomial times a binomial. Okay, hopefully that helps you with that section. I think that was all my slides. Yep. Your turn. Try some questions for 4.5. Make sure you get tons of reps in.